Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1 has dropped on Netflix, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what did you think about this latest set of Cobra Kai episodes? As we go into this, just so you know, I'm a lifelong Karate Kid fan. I started watching Cobra Kai the weekend that it dropped on YouTube Red back in 2018. I started watching it cynically, assuming I was gonna hate it, and immediately it won me over. I was like, wait a minute, this was supposed to suck. This is really good. And I've been a really big fan ever since. But I have had certain reservations and fears the last few seasons that maybe the show's going on a little bit too long. Did these episodes win me over? Did they confirm my fears? Is it still fun? Let's get started with the review. And simply put, I enjoy these characters and the general vibe of this show, so any time spent with these characters, I normally have a good time with it. And so there's still some solid laughs here, there's some cool fights, they're still able to kind of craft those end of the episode cliffhangers that introduce something new that makes you go, oh, I'm gonna watch one more episode, just one more episode that keeps you coming back. But I also think that this is easily the weakest set of episodes that they have released thus far. And most of that goes back to the fears that I've had about this show in general for the last several years. And it feels like on both a story and character development level, the show has extended beyond its natural endpoint. Where at the beginning of the show, you have Johnny bring back Cobra Kai. He becomes the unlikely new Mr. Miyagi to Miguel, except in Cobra Kai. And so this restarts the rivalry with Daniel, and that escalates into this much bigger thing with competing dojos once again. It gets bigger and bigger. But it was still about a certain set of characters resolving these conflicts. And some people got added in, like Tori, some people shifted sides, but there was a central set of conflicts that were personal, Johnny growing up, interpersonal, Johnny with Robbie, Johnny with Daniel, Daniel working through his relationship with his kids, and then, of course, on the bigger, grander scale, is Cobra Kai a good thing or a bad thing? Is it inherently, does it have something broken about it that brings out the worst in people if you play out this mentality? And, of course, it escalated, and Terry Silver came in, and Kreese came in, and it got much bigger, but by the end of Season 5, all of the main plot lines that were established at the beginning of the show were fully resolved. If they hadn't introduced the elements about the World Tournament, Season 5, with very minor tweaks, could have functioned as a series finale because Cobra Kai was defeated. It was brought down. Johnny, Daniel had overcome their differences, and Johnny's growing up and a new family, resolved relationship with his son, Miguel, Robbie, all this is resolved. And so then doing a season afterwards feels like this very long extended epilogue that doesn't feel like it's resolving anything. It doesn't feel like it's answering questions that need to be answered. So all of that is a bit of a long preface that as you go into this, I think they always were in an extraordinarily difficult situation at this point in time because there's nothing more compelling that they can do than what they've already done with these characters. So you get a season that's about them picking the team for the World Tournament, and it's about Daniel and Johnny trying to work together and do their Miyagi-Do Eagle Fang karate together. But we've already had multiple seasons of them trying to work together. And so it just feels like kind of we're rehashing that again. And the idea of a global tournament for the legacy of Miyagi-Do to maybe start a bunch of new dojos, to like what are all their different motives that they have surrounding it, that is almost overtly polar opposite to Mr. Miyagi's mindset about tournaments. It's like the opposite of what Miyagi-Do is all about. Mr. Miyagi did not want Daniel to enter into the first tournament until he realized how important it was for Daniel's confidence. He didn't want him to enter the 1985 tournament. He refused. That was the whole plot of the movie, is that Mr. Miyagi refused to train him for the 1985 tournament, and thus Daniel went to Terry Silver to train for it. Because Miyagi wouldn't do that, because he wasn't about tournaments and establishing a legacy and all these different things that are the stated motives of Johnny, of Daniel, of the individual teenagers. And it's simply, they're already champions. The teenagers are already champions. They've already kind of worked through what caused them to get into this in the first place. So the most emotionally resonant stories to tell about them have played out. So then we're having to do it about like college resumes and things like that they're not as potent. They're not as powerful. And like, I know I'm being very negative in a sense, because I just don't think there's a story to tell here that could possibly live up to the early seasons of the show. But once again, I still enjoy just spending time with these characters. It's fun, but lacks what made me love the show in the first place and love the Karate Kid in the first place. There was something very deeply human about the origins of Karate Kid, about a father without a child, Mr. Miyagi, and a son without a father, Daniel. And then moving that into Cobra Kai, of Miguel not having that father figure, being bullied, and then Johnny having a son but not having a relationship with him, and him needing someone essentially to parent, to mentor, in order to be the person that he needs to be. There's something very profound about all of that, and being bullied and overcoming it. And when you get to the point in time where, yeah, I mean, they're world champions, they can beat anybody up, they can, wherever they go, if they get in a fight, they're going to win it, and we're competing for our resumes or to start dojos, that's not nearly as resonant as what made the Karate Kid and the early seasons of Cobra Kai these universal stories that have stood the test of time, that won people over. And so it's missing that key piece to it. Jokes still land, still made me laugh out loud. There's fun fight scenes, but it's missing a lot of what made the show work earlier. And also to that point, when you don't have a story that drives the conflict, you have to start manufacturing conflict. So all of a sudden, the melodrama feels a lot more overcooked and unearned. It doesn't feel like the natural progression of what's come before. You have people behaving in very erratic, extreme ways very suddenly. Maybe some of that's always been a little bit in the show, but because the story doesn't justify the emotion as much as it did in the past, you notice the overcooked melodrama. You have to revert characters' development. I think in particular, like with Johnny, they're trying to grow him up. They're trying to mature him. But if you mature him too much, he stops being fun Johnny. If he can submit too much to Miyagi-Do and just becomes Miyagi-Do 2.0, you lose an important element of the show. So we have to revert him back. But if you revert him back, first off, we're undoing what was so satisfying about some of the last couple of seasons. And also, we're rehashing the conflict that we did over the last few seasons. There's just a lot of that like, Johnny says he's going to do one thing and change, and then he doesn't. And him and Daniel just keep clashing over things. Like, we keep re-hitting the same beat, the same note over and over again. That's frustrating. And I don't want to go too much into specific spoilers, but in the last episode of the season, they have the big twist reveal, if you've seen it, of kind of how things play out, who ends up on which teams and why they end up on which teams and why. and there's a very dramatic thing that happens with a specific character and the overcooked drama related to it. And it felt totally unearned and manipulative in a way that, as can't go into too much spoilers, but like it was a plot beat that just felt you didn't earn that. You didn't work your way to that. You did something very extreme to justify an extreme reaction. That's manipulation rather than good writing. So I really didn't care for the thing that's a big deal that's in the last episode of it. And that was just kind of the general feeling that I had, that because the story didn't have anywhere to go that was compelling, and the characters don't have anywhere to go on a development level, we're just having to contrive drama to rehash what we've already done better. That's disappointing for a show that I've enjoyed so much. And I still superficially have fun with it because I like the characters, but it really feels like it needed to come to a conclusion with season 5 and rework things to end with season 5. And if you saw my review of season 5, I even thought that one might have been stretched out a little bit too. The other thing to talk about in here is Kreese has a plot line, and we're establishing the 2 sets of training that's going on. Like in episodes 2 and 3, I could be totally wrong if I rewatched the whole show. I didn't do a full rewatch leading up into this because I'm going to do a rewatch with the next couple parts. But episodes 2 and 3 might have been my least favorite episodes of the entire show, where the plot lines in the Valley felt like the most sitcom-y, trite, cliche storylines we've done. High schoolers trying to get into college, sleepovers, picking a dojo name, house hunting. Just very simplistic stuff that all these other shows do. And then it's contrasted with some of the most cartoonish plot lines they've ever done, with Kreese in Korea hunting for relics and battling snakes. Very way cartoonish stuff. That they're side by side, the most bland and the most exaggerated side by side, and none of it particularly interesting. Some of it, if you stop to think about it, man in his 50s doing a sleepover with 3 high school girls. What? And that's cutting back and forth with something that feels like it's out of a 70s martial arts film in the desert, opposite of a desert, in a jungle, the guy with the white hair, the monk-looking fellow just looks straight out of an old 50-year-old kung fu film or something like that, except we're in Korea. And side by side. And that's what happens when you don't have an obvious place to take the story. And that's disappointing. And there's not just because a show is working and people are still watching doesn't mean you have enough story to keep going and keep the quality up. And that's what this feels like. It's still fun because I like the characters and the vibe, but they've run out of story to tell. Real quick before I give you my final thoughts, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Were you like me, disappointed by this season? I don't even know if I was actually disappointed because I went into it and I was pretty sure there wasn't going to be a story to tell. And I'm not trying to just be cynical and negative because I want to be able to fully celebrate what came before, but this doesn't have what the past had. But were you kind of like me, not too crazy about this set of episodes? Or do you think it's just as good as ever and you're excited that they're going bigger with a world tournament? Let me know down below. Also, I've done a bunch of videos talking about Cobra Kai, Final Fights, the Karate Kid movies, seasons, characters, all of that fun stuff. You can see it right up there. I know this was a very negative review, and I hate to disappoint anyone that likes it when I praise a show that they enjoy, but I have to give my honest opinion. it's still watchable and enjoyable enough because I like the characters, the vibe, the setting, the jokes, the fights. But on a story level, on an emotional level, on a character level, I feel that this show has extended beyond its organic endpoint. And therefore, everything just kind of feels forced and contrived, and sometimes flat out of step with the character. Now, it's possible with the World Tournament, the lesson that Daniel's going to learn throughout all of this is that they shouldn't be there. I mean, I know that that could be the case, but as is, it just feels like very out of character, and it feels like this is a show or season that confirmed my fear about this show, that it should have ended a while ago. Remember to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what did you think about it? Check out my Cobra Kai and Karate Kid content right over there. Those are more positive than this review. I'm sorry, I wish I could be more positive, but I have to be honest with you. Check it out right over there, and thank you so much for watching.